Welcome to the Millennial Lawyer Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Millennial Lawyer Podcast with personal injury attorney Mark Shirian. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode is Building a Strong Case, the Essential Evidence in Personal Injury Law. Mark, good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Great seeing you too, Kevin.
All right, so can you explain the different types of evidence that are critical in personal injury cases and how each type contributes to building a strong claim?
Absolutely. So in personal injury cases, your evidence is the backbone of your case. It's what turns a story into a claim. You've got several key types. First, there's physical evidence, like in a damaged car from a car crash or a defective product. It's tangible proof of what went wrong. Then you've got documentary evidence, so medical records, police reports, pay stubs showing lost wages. These paint a clear picture of the injury and its impact. Eyewitness testimony adds a human layer, someone who saw the accident that can corroborate your version of events. Expert testimony, like from a doctor or accident reconstructionist, brings authority and explains complex details to a jury. Finally, digital evidence, which is only growing these days. So photos, videos, text messages can capture the moment and its aftermath in real time. So each piece interlocks to build credibility, prove liability, and show damages. And without one, the puzzle is incomplete.
We've talked, I think, in the past about social media evidence too, right? As far as the digital, like that actually can kind of come into play at times, right?
Absolutely. Especially if it's public, everyone, for the most part, has access to anything that's on social media if it's public.
Is there any type of evidence that's more impactful than the other?
Well, I find that these days juries really like to see video. They like to see something that's tangible. If there's a video of the incident, obviously paints a clearer picture of what transpired. So I would say more visual evidence has been very positive for jurors as far as figuring out what actually transpired.
That makes sense with the rise of video on our phones, between TikTok and YouTube and everything else. That makes sense for sure. What are the most common challenges that you've seen clients face when gathering evidence for their personal injury case?
Time and access are the big ones. Evidence doesn't stick around forever, as you know.
Sure.
Skid marks fade. Security footage gets overwritten. Witnesses forget details. Clients often don't realize how fast they need to act.
Yeah.
So another hurdle is knowing what's relevant. They might overlook a text message admitting fault or underestimate a doctor's note. Then there's the emotional side. So clients are injured, they're stressed, gathering evidence feels overwhelming, especially if they have medical appointments to go to. So insurance companies don't make it easier. They'll push back or delay, hoping evidence gets lost. So the key is acting quickly and leaning on a lawyer to guide them through the chaos in the process.
How quickly do you recommend people get a lawyer? Is it pretty much right away, like as soon as they're physically okay to do it?
ASAP, because like I said, with the surveillance video, you would think it'd be around for 30 days. Sometimes it's less than that. It could be 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, ASAP. So at my office, when we sign up a case, we send a letter of notice of representation immediately. And that includes a preservation notice to preserve as much evidence as possible. So important to act quickly.
Yeah. And we've talked on this podcast before about, you don't know what you don't know. And if I got in an accident, I wouldn't really know what to do. I mean, I would know better because I've talked to people like you, but a lawyer can help make sure you get everything in a holistic kind of approach to a case.
Absolutely. And we're very much on top of that.
You mentioned eyewitness testimony before. How impactful is that in personal injury cases? And what can clients do to help secure these testimonies?
Eyewitness testimony can be a game changer. It's a live, unbiased voice that can tip the scales when it's your word against theirs. So it's especially critical in cases with no video or conflicting stories, but it's not foolproof. Memories fade and credibility matters. Clients should move fast, get names and contact info at the scene if possible, or ask around later. A quick statement recorded on a phone can lock in details while they're fresh. So if it's too late for that, a lawyer can track down witnesses and take formal depositions. The sooner you secure it, the stronger it holds up.
Yeah, and I think that you mentioned that memories fade. In your experience, are people willing to give video testimony sort of at the scene a decent amount of the time?
Not all the time,
Yeah.
but what I have seen is, especially in motor vehicle accident cases, the police report, if there is a witness, it should be indicated on the police report, the name, at least the phone number of the witness. So once you have that, it kind of helps with tracking down these witnesses. But yeah, that's an issue. Not necessarily are witnesses willing to come in and testify for a deposition, especially if there's nothing in it for them.
Yeah, that's the thing, because it's like it's just out of the goodness of their heart that they do this stuff. So sometimes it's hard to motivate people for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. It's out of the goodness of their heart to come in. And
Yeah, take the time out of their day to do all that. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let's unpack medical records a little bit. Can you discuss how big of a role that medical records and documentation play in establishing the extent of the injuries sustained in an accident?
yeah, medical records are the heartbeat of a personal injury case. They're objective proof of what the accident did to you. So, broken bones, torn ligaments, chronic pain. They show the diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis. They document, the date you first went in for treatment and what your complaints were. So, without them, you're just claiming that you're hurt. You don't have any doctor's word backing you up. They also quantify damages. So think medical bills, rehab costs, or future surgeries. The trick is consistency. So gaps in treatment or vague records can weaken your case. So detailed, timely documentation is non-negotiable. A lot of times clients, they discuss or mention ways they're damaged by a case. But if it's not in black and white, it becomes impossible to substantiate your damages.
Mhm.
So medical records will, obviously helps to substantiate your damages.
You mentioned accident scene evidence like video and photos and police reports and all that. With video footage, do you just typically, depending on where the accident is, just sort of visit different businesses around the accident to see if anyone's got a camera facing that direction?
Well, the trick would be to either subpoena the establishments or traffic cameras in that area, or sending letters of preservation to those businesses to preserve evidence that they may have that would be helpful to the case, shine a light as to what occurred. So these are things that we do. Video footage like dash cams, security cameras, it's gold. And it's like a time machine for the jury.
Are you finding that more and more people have dash cams?
I've seen that a lot, especially with the Uber and Lyft drivers.
Yeah.
You're seeing that a lot. You're seeing that a lot. So yes,
Yeah, that's got to be hugely helpful for someone's case. I mean, assuming they're not at fault.
absolutely. And you see that a lot in Teslas. We're in the middle of a case right now where liability is not contested because, the other vehicle actually was a Tesla and the entire incident was on video, and it's clear that the other vehicle had sideswiped our client's vehicle. So in that case, it's just a question of damages.
Yeah.
We've already conceded liability because of what the video already indicated. So I'm seeing that more and more where the video is actually built into the vehicle, like in Teslas.
Yeah, for sure. How do you advise clients as far as preserving digital evidence such as social media or text message that could be relevant to their claim?
Well, digital evidence is a double-edged sword.
Right.
It can help or hurt, so preservation is critical. I tell clients don't delete anything. Texts admitting fault, photos of the scene, even social media posts about the incident. Screenshot it, save it, back it up. Don't post anything new that could be twisted. If it's on the device, don't let it get wiped or lost. Hand it over to your lawyer ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
We can authenticate it and protect it legally. It's about controlling the narrative before the other side does.
Are there any innovative strategies that you use to gather and present evidence that have led to successful personal injury claims?
One strategy is going beyond the obvious, like using drone footage to recreate an accident scene in 3D for the jury. Like I said before, it's visual, immersive, and sticks with them. Others tapping unconventional witnesses. So think a delivery driver who saw the crash but wasn't on the police report. I've also used wearable tech data, like a Fitbit records showing a client's activity drop post-injury to prove impact. So
That's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's a really good idea.
So presentation-wise, timeliness, syncing medical records with photos and testimony can turn a messy case into a clear story. So it's about creativity and making the evidence sing.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you are the millennial lawyer, so you've got to be able to use the current technology, right?
Exactly. That's what's expected of the millennial lawyer. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning into the Millennial Lawyer podcast with New York litigation attorney Mark Shirian. To connect with Mark, visit ShirianPC.com. And please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. Mark, always great having you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.